When the Rain Remembered Us, a romantic story. There are some people you meet once, and somehow they continue living inside your heart forever. Not because they stayed, but because a part of you never left them. This is not a love story about perfection. It is a story about timing, about distance, about wounds, about silence, and about two hearts that kept finding each other, even when the world kept pulling them apart. Amma hated rain, not because it was cold, not because it ruined clothes or flooded streets. She hated it because rain always reminded her of abandonment. The last time it rained heavily when she was 16, her father packed his bags and left home forever. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence. Since then, every storm sounded like heartbreak knocking at her door. At 24, Amma lived alone in a tiny apartment in Accra. She worked at a small publishing company where she edited manuscripts and pretended not to care about love. But deep down, she missed being chosen. Every night, she sat near her window with tea in her hand, watching couples laugh under umbrellas while she buried herself in romance novels she secretly envied. Her friends called her beautiful, but Amma did not feel beautiful. She felt forgotten. One rainy Thursday evening, everything changed. Amma entered a quiet coffee shop to escape the storm. The place smelled like cinnamon, coffee, and old books. She removed her wet scarf and searched for a seat. Only one table remained, occupied. A man looked up from his laptop. Tall, calm eyes, dark hoodie. The kind of face that carried hidden sadness beautifully. "Someone sitting here?" Amma asked quietly. He shook his head, no. His voice was deep and gentle. Amma sat carefully across from him. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. Rain tapped softly against the glass windows. Then suddenly, "You hate rain too?" he asked. Amma looked up, surprised. "How did you know?" He smiled faintly. "Because you look at it like it owes you an apology." Amma almost laughed. Almost. That was the first time she met Elikem Mensah, and neither of them knew it yet. But their lives had already begun changing. Over the next few weeks, Amma kept seeing Elikem. Sometimes accidentally, sometimes intentionally. Coffee became conversations. Conversations became late-night calls. Late-night calls became emotional safety. Elikem was different. He listened carefully, not to respond, but to understand. When Amma spoke about books, he looked at her like words were sacred. When she laughed, he smiled like he had discovered light after surviving darkness. And slowly, painfully slowly, Amma began falling in love. One Saturday afternoon, Elikem took Amma to an old bookstore hidden behind a quiet street. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars. "You love this place?" Amma asked. "I come here when life gets loud," Amma smiled softly. "What gets loud for you?" Elikem paused. His smile faded slightly. "Memories." Amma noticed the sadness immediately, but she didn't push. That was what made her different from everyone else. She knew silence sometimes needed patience. A month later, they sat on a rooftop overlooking the city lights. Music played softly from a distant apartment. The night breeze moved gently around them. Amma looked at Elikem. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why do you always look sad after smiling?" Elikem stared at the city for a long time. Then he finally spoke. "Because happiness scares me." Amma frowned slightly. "Why?" "Because every time I've loved something deeply, I lost it." The words hit her harder than expected. Amma's voice softened. "Who hurt you?" Elikem swallowed slowly. "My fiancé died 2 years ago." Silence. The entire world suddenly felt still. Amma's chest tightened. "She was driving home during a storm," he whispered. A truck lost control. Rain again. Rain had destroyed both of them differently. Amma looked at him with tears threatening her eyes. For the first time, she understood why he stared at storms like they carried ghosts. "You still love her?" Amma asked quietly. Elikem looked at her. "With some people, love doesn't disappear. It just changes shape." Amma nodded slowly, even though her heart hurt hearing it. Because suddenly she realized something terrifying. She was falling for a man who was still grieving another woman. Rain remembered us after that night. Things changed. Not immediately, but gradually. Amma became afraid. Every time Elikem smiled at her, She wondered if he was comparing her to someone else. Every silence became suspicious. Every hesitation became painful. One evening during dinner, Amma finally exploded. "You never fully let me in." Elikem looked stunned. "What?" "You're here, but not completely here." "Amma, no," she snapped. "I'm tired of competing with a ghost." The words pierced him deeply. Elikem stood up slowly. "She wasn't a ghost to me." Amma's eyes filled with tears instantly. She regretted it immediately, but pain had already spoken. "You think I don't try?" Elikem asked quietly. "You think moving on is easy?" Amma shook her head, crying now. "I just want to feel chosen." Elikem stared at her with heartbreak in his eyes. "You are, but not completely." Silence, the kind that changes relationships forever. Then Elikem picked up his jacket. "I think you're asking me to heal faster than I know how." And then he left. Days passed. No calls, no texts. No apologies. Amma pretended to be okay. But grief sat inside her chest every morning. Food lost taste, music became noise. Even the city felt colder. Then one night, during another heavy storm, she found herself standing outside the same coffee shop where they first met. Empty, closed. Rain poured heavily across the streets. And for the first time in years, Amma no longer hated rain, because now it reminded her of him. Meanwhile, Elikem sat alone in his apartment surrounded by old memories. Photos, letters, pain. He stared at a picture of his late fiancée for a long time, then quietly whispered, "I think I'm finally ready to let you go." Tears rolled down his face, not because he stopped loving her, but because he realized grief had become a prison. And Amma had become hope. 2 weeks later, Amma received shocking news. Elikem had accepted a job overseas. He was leaving that night. Her hands trembled reading the message. She called him immediately, no answer. Again, nothing. Panic swallowed her whole. Amma grabbed her coat and rushed out into the storm. Traffic screamed around her. Rain soaked her completely. But she kept moving, because sometimes love is realizing you would rather fight for someone than protect your pride. The airport was crowded. Amma searched desperately through faces. Then finally, she saw him, standing near the departure gate. Elikem looked shocked seeing her. "Amma?" She walked toward him breathlessly. "I was wrong." Elikem stared silently. Tears mixed with rainwater on her face. "I kept asking you to choose me," she whispered, "without realizing your heart was still healing." Elikem's eyes softened painfully. Amma stepped closer. "I don't need you to erase your past. I just want to be part of your future." The words shattered every wall inside him. Elikem pulled her into his arms instantly. Tight, desperate, real. And for the first time since losing the woman he once loved, he allowed himself to love again without guilt. Outside the airport, rain poured endlessly. But this time, neither of them ran from it. Amma looked up at the storm and smiled softly. Elikem touched her face gently. "You still hate rain?" he asked. Amma shook her head slowly. "No." "Why?" She smiled through tears. "Because now it reminds me that even storms can bring people together." Then they kissed beneath the rain while the city lights blurred around them like dreams finally coming true. And somewhere between heartbreak and healing, they found each other. Some love stories are loud, others arrive quietly, like rain against a lonely window. Soft, patient, healing, and sometimes the right person does not arrive to complete you. They arrive to help you forgive life for hurting you. The end.